Someday sounds harmless. It feels responsible, even mature. It suggests patience and preparation, but hidden inside it is a quiet misunderstanding about how life actually works. Someday assumes that life begins after conditions improve, after we become calmer, after we become more capable, after we become more secure. It places existence in the future and turns the present into a tool, something to be used, endured, or sacrificed. But the present is not a draft version of life. It is the only version that ever exists. When we rely on someday, we treat meaning as something external, as something waiting for us at the end of effort, as a reward for discipline, as proof that our patience was justified. Yet, meaning does not function like a prize. It is not stored in the future. It is created through attention. What you attend to shapes what matters. What you avoid quietly defines your limits. Someday is often a way of protecting ourselves from contact with reality, not because reality is unbearable, but because it demands responsibility. If your real life starts later, then today does not require courage. It does not require honesty. It does not require commitment. You can delay difficult choices while still believing you are preparing. This is why someday is seductive. It allows movement without decision, activity without ownership, effort without exposure. But a life built on postponement becomes shallow, even if it is busy. Not because nothing happens, but because nothing is fully claimed. We imagine that clarity appears first and action follows. But in human life, the order is reversed. Clarity is shaped by movement. Understanding is refined through experience. Direction becomes visible only after we start walking. Waiting for certainty before acting is like waiting for strength before lifting anything. The capacity is developed through engagement. Another problem with someday is that it creates a false hierarchy of time. It suggests that later moments are more legitimate than earlier ones, that maturity is always ahead of us, that our current self is provisional. But the person you are today is not an incomplete version of who you will become. It is the only person who can create that future. There is no transition point where responsibility suddenly begins. There is no moment when your life finally becomes real. Reality is continuous. This is why so many people feel disoriented even after reaching their goals. They assumed arrival would create meaning. Instead, it simply created a new present with the same structural questions. What now? How should I live? What do I value? What deserves my energy? No achievement answers these. They remain personal and ongoing. Someday also distorts our relationship with fear. We tell ourselves that fear will disappear once we are more prepared. But fear is not eliminated by preparation. It is transformed by participation. Confidence is not the absence of doubt. It is the decision to act while doubt remains. Postponing life until fear disappears means postponing it forever. There is a deeper illusion here, that there exists a future version of you who will be naturally decisive, composed, and wise, and that this version will finally live correctly. But that future self is built from present choices. It does not appear independently. It grows from how honestly you inhabit today. You do not become courageous and then act. You act and courage slowly becomes recognizable. You do not become clear and then choose. You choose and clarity takes form. In this sense, someday reverses causality. It places growth after completion, when in reality, growth is the process itself. This misunderstanding explains a common quiet sadness in adult life. People feel active, capable, even successful, yet oddly absent from their own existence. They are constantly organizing life without entering it. Planning, improving, and optimizing become substitutes for living, not because they are wrong, but because they are not enough. Life requires presence, not just management. The present is uncomfortable because it cannot be perfected. It contains uncertainty. It exposes limitation. It resists control. Someday offers an escape from that discomfort. It promises a future where things finally align. But alignment is not a state, it is an activity. It must be renewed continuously. This changes how we understand responsibility. Responsibility is not the ability to predict outcomes. It is the willingness to stand inside incomplete conditions and still choose deliberately. Not perfectly, not confidently, but sincerely. A meaningful life is not one that avoids disorder. It is one that responds to disorder without withdrawing. Someday delays that responsibility. Now accepts it. This does not mean impulsiveness. It means refusing to treat your own existence as a rehearsal. It means asking, what am I already living, even while pretending I am preparing? What relationships am I maintaining, even while saying I will take them seriously later? What values am I expressing, even while telling myself I will become more authentic in the future? Your answers to these questions describe your real life more accurately than your plans ever will. The future does not inherit your intentions, it inherits your habits of attention. If you live now with avoidance, your future will contain refined avoidance. If you live now with engagement, your future will contain deeper engagement. So someday is dangerous, not because planning is unnecessary, but because postponing presence hollows life from the inside. The future is not where meaning begins. It is where the consequences of today unfold. And if today is treated as provisional, then tomorrow has nothing solid to build on. Your life is not waiting to start. It is already happening in the way you speak, the way you decide, and the way you tolerate your own postponement. Meaning is not delayed. It is either practiced now or quietly abandoned.